Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the new movie releasing in theaters this weekend called Fall. This movie is directed by Mann, starring Grace Carolyn Currey and Virginia Gardner. And this is a movie that I had no real anticipation going into it. I didn't know if it was going to be good or bad or whatever, but I wanted to see it because I love movies. I love going to watch movies no matter what they are, and I was just looking for some sort of suspenseful thriller. And this movie is successful in some aspects of this. And to be quite honest, I want to make movies. I want to be a filmmaker. If I made this thing, I would be so proud of it. I'd be like, yeah, I made a movie. I made something that accomplished the one goal, which is being suspenseful, and this movie does do that. But was this movie great? No, not really. And so this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you have not seen Fall, or if you don't care about spoilers for this, which there actually are a couple spoilers that I do want to get into for this movie, which is odd, right? You think, two characters climb a tower and they're trying not to fall. You don't really need spoilers for that, but there are some spoilers that I do want to talk about. So let's just jump right into this thing. So what did I like about this movie? Well, like I said, there was one goal this movie wanted to accomplish, and that was making a nail-biting, suspenseful thriller that you are on the edge of your seat throughout the entire runtime, and I think at times it is very successful in that suspense. I'd give it a B+ for suspense, because there were many, many, many sequences in this movie where my palms were sweaty, and I wasn't sure if it was just, our theater was really hot, so maybe it was that, but I do think that it actually was the suspense that was built through this movie, through the direction, and through the actors' performances, really selling that tension. And I was worried about the CGI of this movie being distracting from that suspense, but I never was distracted. I was kind of invested in the actual situation itself because, of course, when you have two characters thrown on a 2,000-foot tall tower and they're looking down, it's a far drop and there's no way off of this thing, there's going to be some built-in suspense with that premise alone, and I think it accomplishes that in the very least. One of my favorite sequences in this movie was when Hunter had to propel herself down a 50-foot rope in order to grab their bag of supplies that they dropped earlier in the movie when the ladder fell apart, because they're stuck on the top of this tower. The ladder has fallen apart. They have no way off this thing anymore, but their bag of their water and their supplies and everything that they possibly would need in order to escape this place is all in that bag. And so she propels herself down, tries to unclip herself to fall onto the satellite in order to grab the bag, hook it back up to the rope, and have Becky pull her back up. This entire sequence was easily the most suspenseful scene in the entire movie. And I think the stakes were actually highest in this moment because at one point Hunter actually does fall and she catches the bag and Becky has to pull her back up. And this essentially puts Hunter out of commission for the rest of the movie because her hand is all scarred up because, she's trying to hold the rope and it just really messed up her hands. And so you have aspects of that. Now she's out of commission. And in terms of the characters, I didn't really like Hunter's character too much. She was the more confident one. She was the one that was more daring in terms of trying to get things done because they're stuck on this tower, and she was the one that was more capable of achieving these things. And Becky's character, she dealt with the death of her husband at the beginning of this movie when they're climbing these rocks, and so she has kind of lost her confidence in herself. She kind of lost the daring aspects of her character that Hunter is now trying to get back out of her for, doing this whole trip up this tower in the first place. And so you have a good story beats where you have Hunter being the more confident one and Becky being the one who needs her confidence back, and you put the character who is more confident out of commission to push the other character to greatness. And I like the idea of this concept and this, plot device that they're doing for the character arcs of this movie. The only problem is the twist later on in this movie, which you find out that Becky or that Hunter actually didn't catch the rope, that she actually fell completely, landed on the satellite, and actually died. That's one of the big reveals towards the end of this movie. And on paper, that reveal it's been done many times before where the character you thought was alive the whole time is actually dead the whole time. And so I'm conflicted about this because, like I said, on paper, if she was pulled back up, her hands are scarred, and she's out of commission, and now she has to try to motivate her friend to be able to have them rescue each other by the end of the movie, that works as well. Or if you just have her die at that point in the movie, and then it really does push her, it adds stakes because, this character just died. We know that we can die, and we know that she's now alone for the rest of the movie. Maybe that would have worked better. I don't know. It just feels like an awkward twist that, we've seen before. I didn't predict it. Honestly, I didn't see it coming. And I don't think that you will see it coming as well. But the movie never cheats. The movie never says that she's able to do something or that she helps Becky in any way where she's physically interacting with other objects. She doesn't catch a backpack at one point. She doesn't do a couple other things. And so it makes sense on paper rewatching it. I don't think the movie cheats with this twist, but I don't think this twist was necessary for this character progression that they were going for. And in terms of character progression, Hunter's character being this influencer type thing, it was a lot of eye-rolling moments. This movie is really goofy. It's weird. It has the intense thriller aspects that the movie is going for and has these really goofy things that just feel like is padding for this movie. It feels like they had this really basic 90-minute thriller and they decided, okay, we need to add more obstacles for these characters in order to, have more tension in this movie. And so you have this little back and forth of these two characters having some sort of relationship drama, which it really did feel like a studio said, oh, we have two female protagonists. There needs to be relationship drama. We need to throw that in there because essentially Hunter's character actually had an affair with Becky's, husband way back in before he died. And so I don't care about this stuff. It is introduced. It is so obvious that it's going to happen. It is foreshadowed super obviously earlier in the movie, and it was not a surprise whatsoever. And they just kind of threw that whole thing away immediately after Becky finds out. So it just didn't matter at all, especially since Hunter ends up dying. Maybe if she didn't die, maybe she was still alive by the end of the movie, maybe it could have meant something by the end and there was some sort of forgiveness there, but no, it's a completely throwaway storyline that just didn't matter. There was also the really goofy stuff with the life hacks, which you cannot unscrew a light bulb and just plug in your two-pronged wall charger into a light bulb socket and magically charge things. Maybe it is real. Maybe I would just, someone needs to send me a TikTok of this actually being a real thing, but in context of this movie, it seems so like, oh, we're foreshadowing. We're going to do this with the red light bulb at the top of the tower later in the movie. It was just so obvious. It was so cheap, and it didn't build any more tension of, Becky having to climb up to the top of this tower and hold herself there while the birds and the vultures are, going after her, which, again, with the vultures, when I talk about padding in this movie, it felt like they needed more obstacles, so they introduced the vultures early in this movie, and they had this idea of, survival of the fittest. The vultures ate this other animal dead in the desert because it needs to survive, and so later on in the movie, Becky has to kill one of the vultures and eats the vulture in a very, very ridiculously goofy scene. And so, like I said, when the movie focuses on the actual matter at hand of them on top of this tower trying to get down or trying to grab the bag in order to rescue themselves with, the drone or whatever it is, it's just when it's focused on that stuff, it works. When it's focused on this other goofy stuff, the relationship stuff, the influencer stuff, I just couldn't care less about those aspects of this movie. Like I said, it felt like the producers are saying you need to throw all this stuff in there to overfill our runtime in order to have a movie that is worth releasing in theaters. Well, they should have just done what they had, which is making a really quick, a really tight 90-minute thriller that just worked on a very baseline level. But they try to throw this other stuff in there, which just didn't really work too well. So, have you guys seen Fall, and what do you guys think of all the different aspects of this movie, the different twists and turns? Do you like the idea of her being dead the whole time at the end of the movie? What did you think about that? I think that's the biggest head-scratching thing in this film, so let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this review, subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.